The city of Palermo is not an European city. The city of Palermo is a Middle East city in Europe. We are proud to be Middle East and to be European at the same time. And I have to say thanks to the migrants, because the migrants arrived in Palermo, led Palermo to be Palermo. I am the mayor of Palermo. Since September 2015, I am the new global co-chair of UN Habitat and Safer Cities. I was elected in Bogota. The election came because the mayor of the city of Palermo is strongly, deeply engaged just to solve the problems connected to migration. Until 20 years ago, Palermo did not know the migrants, because Palermo in the last century was dominated by the mafia, just excluding, expelling people coming from other countries. Now we are free from the dominance of the mafia, and we have to say thanks to migrants, because the migrants let us be able to come back to the past centuries. When Palermo was a mosaic made by different pieces of stones, different colors, or different dimensions, that we have just the responsibility to keep in harmony. In this Palermo Charter 2015, we indicate the way, not only for us, but for the rest of the world. We think that we have to pass from the migration as an emergency, as a suffering, to mobility as human right. No man can be obliged to die where the parents let him be born. I cannot be obliged to die in Sicily. We have said that we want to abolish the residence permit, not to abolish the passport, because I fear Sicilians traveling all over the world without control. I know that to say that we wish to abolish the residence permit can appear just something like an utopia. And I was elected with 74% of votes, speaking just as I'm speaking now, just saying clearly that I am against the residence permit. Sicily is a positive example for the rest of the world. Imagine, in the last 20 months, arrived in Sicily 300,000 migrants. You have not heard one single act of racism, one single act of intolerance. Neither the simple go home. Nothing. Imagine, in a little town like Pozzallo, 16,000 inhabitants, through Pozzallo in the last year passed 38,000 migrants. Please come to Palermo and just watch what happens when the migrants arrive. It is an example of humanity, because everything is well organized. Healthcare, cultural mediator, social help, the Caritas, the volunteer, the Red Cross, and everything is working well. The tragedy is before they arrive. The tragedy will be when they will leave the port of Palermo.
I have seen a couple of these arrivals, and what strikes me is a very, very different culture of welcome here in Sicily to what we're seeing in Northern Europe. They're proposing new hotspots, also in the reception centres in Sicily. They are proposing to fast-track people, process them using Frontex, not necessarily even the Italian authorities, creating also an armada of international ships to hunt so-called smuggler boats. What's your response to this? There seems to be very much of a hardening of attitudes in Europe.
The starting point is the wrong opinion of European politicians. The European politicians imagine that the people in Europe are intolerant. Imagine that people in Europe do not want to welcome the migrants. It is completely wrong. In the stomach, not in the mind, in the stomach, not in the hearts. In the stomach of European people, there is a culture of welcoming. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel has understood that in the stomach of the German people there is no intolerance, because the German people and the Italian people have the syndrome of genocide. We have just the syndrome coming from the memory of the past genocide, Nazi-fascist genocide. And the people do not want to be called responsible another time in the history for the genocide. And the residence permit is the new slavery, the new death penalty. 53 years ago, not 500 years ago, 53 years ago, a man in a civil country, in a so-called civil country, said, I have a dream. And this building, this palace, there is just a lapid, remembering the speech of Martin Luther King, just saying strongly, I have a dream. And I have to remember that the famous philosopher Voltaire, he was a merchant of slaves. He lived selling and buying human beings, and nobody did the protest against the famous philosopher Voltaire. And I think that is just one example how difficult is the path, how difficult is the walk to let humanity be free from slavery, from death penalty. I know how difficult it is to be free from residence permit. But we need to indicate the extreme point of the horizon. I wish to say to the European politicians, wake up, please, wake up. Watch the mind, watch the hearts, watch the stomach of your electors, and you will discover, as I discovered in Palermo, getting 74% of votes, that the majority of the people, of course, think that the mobility is a human right. I am afraid, yes, there's a problem connected to the immigration. I am afraid for the security of Europe, not today, but tomorrow. Among 1 million of persons, 1 million of migrants arriving in Europe, probably 10,000 will never forget the sufferance. It's a potential of violence for the future. We speak about ISIL, we speak against ISIS. We speak about the perversion of Islamic culture. That is a tremendous problem, a tremendous disaster for the humanity. Just like it was a tremendous disaster for Sicilians, the mafia, perverting Sicilian culture and killing in name of honor, of friendship, of family. It's just the same tragedy of Nazism. The Nazis killed, perverting the German culture. Who is the first enemy of Islamic culture, the wonderful Islamic culture? It's Osama bin Laden, that he said that he wanted to preserve, to protect Islamic culture. May I tell you, who is the first enemy of Catholic faith? The Pope organized crusades. I mean, that is exactly what we wish to send as a message. Each identity is exposed to a risk that I call identity-based criminalities. And we need just to counter this identity-based criminality, just promoting the mobility as a human right. I was elected as a global co-chair of UN Habitat Safer Cities, because I said we wish just to develop, to promote the local development. It is just a UN Habitat mission. We wish to protect the local development, but we have to start from the mobility as a human right. And I am in the steering committee of Strong Cities Network. It's a network based in London. I am a member of this network together with the mayors of Paris, of Oslo, of Stockholm, of Copenhagen, of New York, of Medellin, of Nairobi, of Mombasa, of Amsterdam. And we say that the only way to counter ISIL, to counter the violent extremism, is to welcome people. Is to send a message. Do not pay $4,000 to a criminal to pass the Mediterranean Sea. Do not pay Libya $4,000 just to reach Sicily, to reach Europe. Without resident permit, you can buy business flight and go to Hamburg, to Berlin, to Paris, to London, to Madrid, to Rome, to Palermo. I have fighted the mafia all my life. Since some month I've decided not to fight against the mafia, but to fight against resident permit. And fighting against the permit, I discovered that behind the immigration, there is the mafia too.
Where there are these government reception centres, there's a lot of money, and where there's a lot of money and there's not much transparency, organised crime can enter, yeah?
May I speak about Al Capone?
Of course.
May I speak about the alcohol prohibitionism, producing mafias and organized crime? The same prohibitionism is connected to the residence permit, exactly the same. Imagine how many criminals should lose money if we should abolish the residence permit. Migrants arrive, they are illegal. Migrants arrive, being illegal, they cannot work regularly. It means they work in black. Migrants arrive, they have no residence permit. They cannot rent a flat, and they pay illegally. And they pay illegally to live in places where the animals should not live.